can you give us any insights on how we should first emotionally navigate the money troubles that millions of people are dealing with today?
There's a lot to unpack there. So I think the first thing is understanding now how money plays a part in your life. And I know we've talked about this before, but I really think the key here is understanding that, number one, money is important, and understanding your personal relationship with money. And what I like to define that is there's a few things that you have to understand. Is number one is that it is my duty to become wealthy. Number two, money is a tool. Number three, money is abundant. And number four is I will become wealthy.
Can you say those one more time?
Sure. Number one is it is my duty to become wealthy.
Yes.
Number two is that money is abundant. Number three is that money is a tool. And number four is that I will become wealthy. And the reason why I say this is because you really have to understand that you can do it. Now, there's a difference between now what I'm talking right now and thinking and growing rich. Because if we kind of now dissect this, everybody wants this outcome. And the outcome is I want financial freedom. I want to be rich. I want to be wealthy. I want cash flow. You can use whatever term you want for that outcome, right? We want some sort of financial freedom. In order to receive this outcome, you have to go back a little bit, which means I have to take certain actions, right? I have to do things with my money. I have to do things to achieve this outcome. But let's go back even more. How do you get that action to happen? I have to have a thought to go out and do something with money, right? I have to think I need to invest. I have to think that I can become wealthy. And this is where most people think that you have to start, right? Think and grow rich. If I think rich, I can take the right actions and have the right outcome. But that's a lie. Because what you'll realize, many of us have this, is in the back of our minds, you might have this little voice saying, I know this is not true. So you can sit there and say, I'm going to grow rich and try to manifest this wealth. I'm going to grow rich. I'm going to become wealthy. Money's going to fall into my laps. But it won't happen if that voice in the back of your mind is saying, I know I'm just doing this so I can have this outcome. I don't know if it's true. Somebody like me can't become wealthy. Somebody that looks like me can't actually do it. Somebody from my background, somebody with my upbringing, somebody with whatever circumstances I have can't do it. And when you have that back of that mind thought, it doesn't matter what you're thinking. You're trying to outspeak your mind. It doesn't work like that.
So your mind and your words and your actions need to be in congruency and alignment.
Right. And that's where we need to go one step back, right? We talked about we want this outcome. You need to take an action to have that outcome. You need to have a thought to have that action. But what's before the thought? I call this your subconscious or your pre-thought, where this is now really getting into your true beliefs, not just your thought, your true subconscious beliefs. And that's what you have to work on first. That way you can actually think the right things so you can have the right outcomes. Because what ends up happening if you're just thinking this with the frontal part of your mind, and I don't know which part of your brain does this, I'm just saying this. If you're just thinking this, but you really know deep down that money is evil, money is bad, I can't become wealthy, you're never going to actually achieve the outcome that you want, which is why you have to start with really that deep understanding of your relationship with money and why you have that. Because the real reason why generation or poverty is generational isn't because of the circumstances that you're dealt with externally. It's because you grew up being told, we can't have this, we can't afford nice things, we don't have money for this, we're not rich like them, rich people are evil. When you grow up hearing this, you grow up living life thinking this is true.
Believing it.
You believe it. And why wouldn't you? That's what you were told. Everybody around you said that. People in your school probably said the same thing. You lived this life thinking that, money is limited, it is taboo, it is bad, and we can't have nice things because we're not rich. Okay, no big deal. That's what's normal. Now you grow older, you get a job, maybe you're making some decent money, but you're going to have those same money beliefs. And then maybe you start having kids. I know your kids want to have the nice PS4, 5, 6, whatever we're on. And what do you say? Oh, we can't afford that. We can't afford the nice things. We don't have money for that. That's for rich people. We're not rich. And so now this starts to get passed down. And this is where now the first step, and we've talked about this many times, the first step to building wealth is to start with the money mindset the beliefs that you have around money, and understand, number one, that you can become wealthy. Not just that you can become wealthy, you will become wealthy. And that money is abundant. There's a lot of money in the world, right? When people start to enter this financial education space, we start to assume that if you're rich, I can't be rich. If you have money, I can't have money. So it starts to create that jealousy or just this negative association with, oh my God, I don't want to tell you my business idea because what if you steal it and take my money? Well, both of us can have money because there's a lot of money in the world. If you look at it from a financial perspective, the Federal Reserve Bank is printing trillions and trillions of dollars. There's a lot of money out there. You just need a small sliver of it and you can have millions and live a life of true financial freedom. And not just that, understanding that money is a tool. Because the reason why we put these smoke screens around money, that money's bad, it's taboo, it's evil, is because many times people are insecure about their own money. And so when I can't go out and buy that nice vacation for my kids, I can't buy my husband that thing that he wants, I can't buy my wife that YSL or Gucci purse that she wants, I can't go on the nice vacations. Well, money's bad. We shouldn't stress about money. It's these stupid vacations. We don't need those. We can enjoy our time here. It's such a scam to go out there and sit on an all-inclusive beach and have food delivered to you, right? I mean, we start to create these smoke screens where, why would anybody want to have an expensive car like that? Why would anybody want to have these nice and expensive things?
Judging people who have money. Yeah.
And so now it's, you know what? If you don't want it, that's completely fine, but make sure you can afford it. And understanding now, money is not going to make you a good person. It's also not going to make you a bad person. It's just a piece of paper. It's fuel. It amplifies who you are. When you have more of that money, you can do more of the things that money can buy. One of those things is have freedom, have options. Options to choose what you want to buy, options to choose where you want to eat, options to choose when you want to go on vacation, not just can you go on vacation, and options to choose how you want to live your life. And not just that, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it also can influence what type of healthcare you can get, what type of healthcare your parents can get, what type of healthcare your kids can get, what type of college your kids can go to, what type of education your kids can go to. It matters. And so now at the end of the day, you can hate it or you can understand it. And so we create these smoke screens without really understanding how money plays a part in our life. Because at the end of the day, money talks. And the people who have money will get to be able to live that freedom. And the people who don't, you become subservient to the people who have money. And I don't say that to be mean. Right. I say this to be factual.
They're facts. Yeah. What I'm hearing you say is if every individual watching or listening does not take 100% responsibility for their beliefs around money.
If you're enjoying this video and want to take your investing to the next level, I want to remind you that I put together a free investing masterclass where I walk you through how you can get started as an investor and find hidden investment opportunities before everybody else. It's a completely free masterclass, and when you register, you'll also get access to Market Briefs, which is my newsletter for investors, completely free, complimentary as a bonus. So if you want to get the investing masterclass and Market Briefs all for free, all you have to do is click the link down in the description below to get it.
They will pass on generational money traumas to their children or the people around them because they'll be speaking beliefs that are limiting instead of abundant.
Absolutely.
And so how does someone who has been conditioned for decades around certain money beliefs all of a sudden educate themselves, get the tools, get the information, and say, no, everything I've been taught for the last 20, 30 years of my life is a lie around money.
Yeah.
And therefore, have I been living a lie myself? Am I a fraud? Are these people around that I've been telling me this, can I trust them? My parents, your whole world blows up, essentially.
It does.
It blows up. And so how does someone navigate the emotions of, all these things my parents who I love, who are well-intended, have taught me around money, have kind of been holding me back. And I understand they try to protect me, but it's really limited me. How do we deal with that? And then start educating ourselves to break free of money limits, of money scarcity, of money insecurity, so that we can have more financial peace and emotional peace around money.
I think you got to start with this, understanding if somebody doesn't have what it is that you want, you probably shouldn't listen to them on how to get where you want to go. And your parents might have the best intentions. Your family might have the best intentions, but they might not know how to get to where you want to go, right? The common saying is don't listen to a fat person on how to lose weight. Take that for whatever it's worth.
Well, a broke person on how to make money.
Yeah. You know, my parents and a lot of traditional Indian immigrants, you come to a new country like America with very little, you work very hard. Now you want your kids to have a better life. And if you don't have financial education, you're going to say that the best way to do that is go and become a doctor. That's why you see so many Indian people become doctors, is because your parents beat it into you since the day you're one. I'm speaking from 100% experience here, because since I was young, my parents said that I need to go and become a doctor, because if you become a doctor, you're going to, number one, have that doctor title, so you're going to have the status. Someone's going to want to marry you, and you're going to be able to make a lot of money and be rich. But what I learned was there's a disconnect between being a doctor and being financially wealthy. Those are two different things, because we assume that if you go to school, get good grades, you make more money and you become more wealthy. But there's also a difference between making more money and building wealth.
What's the difference between making money and building wealth?
Well, some people who have made millions and millions of dollars died with nothing in their name, died being broke and lived broke. Building wealth is really a matter of time and freedom. And what I mean by that is I can make $1 million a year and be broke, which a lot of people actually are. We're out here not far from Beverly Hills, and a lot of people are making a lot of money but are broke. And I see this all the time because I work in this financial education space where I have met countless doctors, because I talk about this a lot, people who are making $300,000, $400,000, $600,000 a year that have no savings, no investments, and no idea where to start. Because when you start to make more money, you first think, if I had an additional $100,000 a year, oh my God, I could do so many things. Because we think in terms of spending. If I had $10,000 a month, what would I do? Well, I would first go to Cancun. I'd buy myself a nicer car. I'd go on a nicer, whatever. And that's how we consume. That's how we think. We're conditioned to think that way. That America is a consumer nation. We are the largest consumers of things in the world. I like to say that Americans make $1 to spend $2. Traditional Indian mindset people make $1 to spend 20 cents.
Right.
Because they're conditioned to save. Not saying either one of these is right. They're both wrong. But when most people are conditioned to consume and spend, you make more and you spend more. And you might think, well, how can you spend $1 million a year? It's very easy. It is very easy to spend $1 million a year. You start buying some nice homes. You start going on some expensive vacations. You start buying some expensive clothes. And there goes your $1 million a year.
Gone.
And that's what happens to a lot of people. So when we talk about the difference between building wealth and making a lot of money, you got to take the money that you earn and not spend it. And you got to put this to work. And so let me break this down this way. Becoming wealthy comes down to 5 steps. And I've talked about it in many different forms, but I'm going to break it down into the simplest root thing you have to understand. Number one is you got to earn money. And if people say, how do I earn money? It doesn't matter. It could be a side hustle. It could be a business. It could be a job. You could have some money coming in. Once you make some money, number two is you don't spend all of your money. And that means when you make $1,000, you don't spend all $1,000. How much do you spend? Let's not worry about the nitty gritty yet. Just don't spend all of your money.
Well, most people make $1,000 and they spend $1,500.
Yeah.
They use their credit card to spend more than what they have because they think, well, I'll be able to pay this off next month because I have another $1,000 coming in.
Exactly.
And then they get into more and more debt because they're over-consuming.
You'll never build wealth. You'll never get rich. You'll never have any freedom. And so you can't spend all of your money. Which is why number 3 is you take the money you don't spend and you go out and you buy an investment. We'll call it the middleman. And you'll see why I call it the middleman. Is you want to take this money you don't spend and you want to essentially throw it into this thing on the side that will hopefully make you some more money in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Then number 4, when your investment makes money, take the money that your investments make and dump it back into your investments. And then number 5 is work to make more money. And the reason why you're working to make more money is so you can have more investments. Now, let me explain why this is so difficult, because it makes sense in theory, right? You're never going to become wealthy if every time you make $1, you give it to somebody else. If you want to become wealthy, you have to keep more money for yourself. the way that our economic system works is the more money you spend, the richer somebody else gets. It's, hate it or love it, that's the reality. When you go to Chipotle and you buy that extra guac, Chipotle is making more money. When you go to Amazon and you spend more money, Amazon's making money. Now, this can make some people extremely wealthy, but it also keeps the majority of people broke financially. And so this is where, if you want to make yourself rich, you got to stop making everybody else rich right now. You got to first make yourself rich. And that means stop giving other people your money. And there are so many extremes to how you can do this, right? I mean, you could go to that one extreme where I am not going to spend anything. I'm going to live in a shoebox and I'm going to eat nothing but rice and beans. And I'm going to stack all my money. Fine. Other people will find a more balanced approach. And you got to find what's right for you.
Yeah. I'll spend a certain amount on the things I like, but I'm not going to overspend. Or I like it where you just say, I'm going to reinvest a certain amount of my money every single month of the money that's coming in, whether it's a paycheck or your business. I'm going to take that money. This much is going every month into my investments, whatever that might be. And then if I want to spend the rest on a vacation or, extra guacamole or whatever it is, cool. Enjoy your life as well.
Right.
Like you don't have to live the most frugal life as well. You don't have to be so extreme. But I think first, take your money to invest.
Yeah.
Then spend on some activities and events and go to concerts. Cool. I get it.
And you got to find your balance. For me, I was on an extreme. When I first learned about this, I went extreme because when I was making money first, I was running an event planning company. I didn't know anything about money. I took my money and I bought nice watches and I dumped it back into my car. I mean, that's what I thought was normal. But as you start to learn, you realize, or if you start to become more financially educated, you realize that doesn't do anything for your wealth, right? There's no wealth built into tricking out your car. There's no wealth built into just spending money on nice things. It looks nice and it's nice. If you want to have it, it's fine, but that's not going to make you wealthy. And you got to decide what's more important to you. So then I completely tipped the scale and I started not spending any money, so I'd have more money to invest. For me, it started off in real estate, and now it's this slow process. The reason why it's so difficult is because if you make $10,000, it's a lot of money to put aside, right? I worked to make 10 grand, but you can't show off a $10,000 stock market portfolio the way you can a $10,000 watch or a $10,000 vacation, because I can take those things and I can put it on my Instagram, I could put it on my Facebook, I could put it on TikTok, and I can show these things off, and they get a lot of likes, and they get a lot of oohs and ahs. But my stock market portfolio just sits there. Slowly, it'll start to generate a little bit of income. And I think understanding you're going to make a lot of money in your lifetime. I don't care how much money you're making. If you make 50 grand a year, in the next 10 years, you're going to make $500,000. In the next 2 decades, you're going to make $1 million.
Wow.
Assuming you never get another raise. Which means you're going to make millions of dollars over the course of your career, and most people will have nothing to show for it. And when I say most people, I don't say this generally. I mean, statistically, most people will have nothing to show for it. Which means now, as you go through life earning this money, what are you doing it for? Are you doing it to look rich, or are you doing it to actually build wealth? And you got to decide that for you, right? I can't come here and tell you, oh, it's important for you to build wealth, and then you listen to me. You got to decide that for yourself, because you want to take better care of yourself, your wife, your husband, and your kids, and your parents, and you want to have a better future than today. And that's what investing is really for.